it is. The hottest take of them all. It's the Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers, live on 1410 ESPN Radio.
All right, everybody, we welcome you in here on what day is it? Oh, yeah, Tuesday. Ooh, good start to the show. Late and don't even know what day it is. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. Hope everyone's had a great day. A ton to get into. Look, I spent a lot of time yesterday ranting and raving and screaming and bitching and moaning about the Cincinnati Reds. The Reds seem to be trending back in a more positive direction. So, we'll be more positive today about the Cincinnati Reds. We'll talk and take a look. We're going to open up with looking back last night, NFL preseason, Bengals' second preseason game of the season. And look, not a lot of people like to put a whole lot of stock into NFL preseason, but it does seem like the Cincinnati Bengals are putting a lot of stock into preseason, which is why you're seeing a lot of starters. The most interesting stat from last night of course, the Cincinnati Bengals, of course, had everything to do with Joe Burrow taking a sack. He kind of got hit hard and spun around last night. This is why last night, look, Joe Burrow was fine. He didn't get hurt. I'm not a fan of playing guys like that in the preseason. I don't think that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to get off to a hot start this season because they played starters. What's going to be really interesting is when the Browns beat the Bengals in week 1, after playing all your starters this much time in the preseason, you're going to realize that really what this comes down to is this team good enough to go out there and win and compete at a high level? Look, I think the week 1 matchup for the Cincinnati Bengals going up against Cleveland, it's a matchup nightmare. It's a matchup nightmare. Like, it really is. I don't think that it's a good matchup whatsoever for the Cincinnati Bengals, which is obvious. Look, I mean, there's a reason that the Bengals have struggled against the Browns for years. Now, I know last year was a different story, but last year the Cleveland Browns were selecting very, very high up in the draft for a reason. They weren't very good. But the Cleveland Browns have absolutely everything you need to attack the Cincinnati Bengals and make them vulnerable. They have a dominant pass rush. They have a very, very talented secondary. And I think now that the offense for Cleveland is going to be way more balanced. We talked lightly about it yesterday. Joe Flacco named the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns, of course. Cedric Tillman, I'm a big Cedric Tillman guy. I love Cedric Tillman, and him and Jerry Jeudy. Them as a 1-2 punch. It's not Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but that's still a heck of a punch, especially going up against the worst defense in the National Football League. Even if you don't respect the Browns offense, I know you may not think you respect the Browns offense. I know I don't respect the Bengals defense. You may not respect, all right, you may not know a whole lot about the Browns offense and what it's going to look like, but the problem is I know what the Bengals defense looks like. Not impressed. I think that the Cleveland Browns can run the football. They rebuilt that offensive line. They strengthened that up in the offseason. Hearing nothing but all reports out of Browns camp is just how impressive the run game has been, and that's even before introducing Quinshon Judkins into the mix. That offensive line is strong up front. They can run the football, and Joe Flacco, the last time he played in Stefanski's offense, he diced defenses up all the time. Now, I know he had that horrendous game against Houston. He's going to keep opposing teams in it because he throws interceptions. Not a great thing. But we know the offense can flow with a competent quarterback and healthy weapons. And last year, when the offense was healthy, when Deshaun wasn't out there, Jameis Winston threw all over defenses. All right, Jerry Jeudy was fantastic. He had, 1,200 yards last year with nobody throwing him the football? You're going to have somebody throwing you the football this year, and you're going to have a true number 2 wide receiver in Cedric Tillman. The second that the Browns moved on from Amari Cooper last year and Cedric Tillman started getting the route tree that Amari Cooper was, everything took off from there. And then he gets hurt in the Snow Globe game in Cleveland against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and everything just kind of went downhill from there. But the bottom line is, at this point, the Browns are in matchup nightmare for the Cincinnati Bengals. And last night, the only thing that I saw, you could sit there and say it's preseason, can't put a whole lot in it. The Bengals, horrendous effort defensively last night. Does not look like a team. Like you look at the offense, you look at Joe Burrow. He looks like he's ready for the regular season. He's going to be ready to go week 1. That defense, it looks ready to go for the regular season. It looks exactly how it did last year. Horrendous. Everyone said, well, that defense got better last year. It did not get better last year. If you look at the teams that the Cincinnati Bengals played down the stretch, it was not as if the Cincinnati Bengals played anybody that truly challenged that defense. To sit there and talk about how the defense really started to show progress towards the tail end of last year, all while ignoring the fact, okay, that they played literally nobody down the stretch. I mean, it was so favorable for them down the stretch. The fact that, okay, if you started looking at this, Pittsburgh Steelers, okay, they lose that one. All right, then you go up and you go to Dallas. Dallas was destroyed and decimated by injuries, backup quarterback. The Tennessee Titans had the number 1 overall draft pick. Oh, good job, defense. You showed them. Still technically gave up 27 points to them, by the way. Oh, you beat up on Cleveland, who was on their 17th string quarterback by that point of the season. You beat Denver. Bo Nix, rookie quarterback, solid, not bad, but that was the most impressive quarterback you beat up down the stretch. And then, you beat Pittsburgh. You beat Pittsburgh. There's a reason that they had to go and desperately try to find a way to make it work with 55-year-old Aaron Rodgers, okay? So this idea that the Bengals defense improved towards the tail end of last year, it didn't. And based on what we've seen already early in the preseason, the missed assignments, the missed tackles, the confusion, the inability to stop the run, man, I can't believe you guys just let Lou Anarumo go because you weren't ready to admit that it was the players that were the problem. Lou Anarumo is going to turn that Colts defense around because they're going to give him the weapons that he needs to be successful, all while you guys go out and get Al Golden, who I knew was a mistake of a hire to begin with, and I'm not just basing that all off of 2 preseason games, but there was nothing that excited me about Al Golden, who, in a game of tug-of-war, how many games of tug-of-war did the Bengals have to win to pull Al Golden away from anybody else? No other team wanted Al Golden. Teams literally were lining up to take Lou Anarumo from the Cincinnati Bengals. Nobody was lining up to take Al Golden. It was the wrong move, and we saw last night, even the first 2 preseason games, it doesn't matter. This team's no good defensively. And I, as a Browns fan, I can't wait for that week 1 matchup. I do. I think it's a matchup nightmare for the Cincinnati Bengals. They could easily start the month of September 3-1, but that one's going to be a loss to Cleveland. Cleveland is winning that week 1 matchup. Cleveland, I think, is very underrated. Everyone's, because it's Cleveland, they never get the benefit of the doubt. And I'm not even saying they deserve the benefit of the doubt. They don't. All right. Every nightmare that can exist as a football team has happened in Cleveland. No doubt about it. They don't deserve the benefit of the doubt. But as far as I'm concerned, from quarterback to receiver to offensive line to the run game to this defense, I think that Cleveland is a very underrated team. They're not going to win this division by any means, but I don't think, every win total is 4.5, 5 games. I'm taking the over on every single one of those. Not because I'm a homer, but you can't sit there and tell me, okay, you look at the fact that they have a veteran quarterback, 2 very good wide receivers, a solid offensive line. They could run the football. And that defense, let's not act like that defense isn't legit. It was the best defense in the NFL 2 years ago. Last year, a bunch of injuries. They took a major step back. Still have defensive coach of the year from 2 years ago, obviously, in Jim Schwartz. Cleveland's going to be just fine. And they match up well against all of Cincinnati's deficiencies. That's what the Browns have strength-wise. They could pass the football. They could run the football. Bengals can't stop the pass. They can't stop the run. Browns have a dominant pass rush and a very, very good secondary. Bengals have a bad offensive line. It's going to be a rough one. The Bengals are 0-1 already before the season even starts. They're 0-1 already before the season even starts. David Shaw says it was the right move to move on from the defensive coordinator. It was the wrong hire. What was the wrong hire? Lou Anarumo was not the wrong hire. Lou Anarumo was not the problem. I know it's only preseason, but I have not seen one uptick. Like when Cleveland moved on from their DC a few years ago and they added Jim Schwartz, you saw instant improvement. They were a top 5. It was the same roster from the year before when they were the bottom half of the league in defense, and then they were a top 5 defense when they went out and got the Al Golden, woofa. Lou Anarumo was not the problem, and I think we're seeing that already. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. Reds back in action tonight. The West Coast has not been, very friendly to them in years past, but they get off to a hot start as they start their long West Coast road trip with the win over the Angels last night in Game 1. We'll talk about that. We'll dive back into the Ella De La Cruz conversation. Urban Meyer, he says the NCAA got it right with the punishment to that cheating team up north. We have that coming up around the corner as well. We'll be right back. All right, and we welcome you back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. 937-518-1410, the number to call and jump in on the conversation. Look, preseason, I get that, but it's just one of those two where, like, if someone plays really, really well, you chalk it up to, well, it doesn't mean a whole lot. It's preseason. But when Joe Burrow plays well in the preseason, everyone loses their mind. But the reason everyone loses their mind is because Joe Burrow, when he looks good in the preseason, that's how good he looks usually in the regular season. We're not seeing something we haven't seen before. You know what I mean? Like a couple years ago, I remember when the Steelers had Kenny Pickett. Kenny Pickett, I think, just was, what was the completion percentage? It was something wild. Like, I think he completed like 80, 90% of his passes in the preseason. It was unbelievable. The QBR that was through the roof. And everyone was losing their mind, saying, oh my gosh, are you kidding me? Like, this is amazing. This is unbelievable. And then the regular season happened, and he wasn't even remotely close to looking like the quarterback he was in the preseason. But people got excited. People put, a little bit of stock into it because, man, they haven't seen that before. They haven't seen it before and all of that. So now when guys play well in the preseason, it's like, yeah, I don't buy into it. I don't believe it. Kenny Pickett never looked that good before, but looked amazing for the Steelers in preseason that year. Everyone learned their lesson. We don't give a rip about preseason. It all comes down to what can you do in the regular season. So I'm not a hypocrite. I think Joe Burrow looks fantastic. I think that this is exactly what the Bengals needed. I've said it before. I don't think Joe Burrow needs to be wasting his time throwing the football in these meaningless preseason games. The only thing that can happen is he get hurt. You're not going to convince me that Joe Burrow's all of a sudden going to get off to a hot start in September because he played in a few preseason games. No, he's going to get off to a hot start in September possibly because he's healthy. And the only way that he cannot be healthy is if you continue throwing him out there in meaningless exhibition, preseason meaningless games. So my point is Joe Burrow looked good last night. He looked good in game one. I will put stock, and it's not that I'm putting stock into it. I buy it. I believe it because Joe Burrow looked good in preseason. Joe Burrow, when healthy, is a good quarterback. I'm also not going to accept that people are saying, well, the Bengals defense has been horrendous in the first two preseason games, but I'm not going to put a lot of stock into it because, well, it's just preseason. No, I put stock into Joe Burrow looking as good as he did because, hey, I buy it. I believe it. We've seen it. Like, we know that's who he is. And the reason I buy the Bengals deficiencies in the preseason is because guess what? We've seen that before, too. What we're seeing from the Bengals offense when the starters are out there with Joe Burrow, we've seen it. We believe it. We know that's who they are. I don't expect a slow start from the offense by the Bengals this season based on what we've seen already. And I also expect to see a bad defense based on what we've seen already because we've seen this defense be bad before, and they're bad again. They made no changes in the offseason outside of, well, I think regressing at defensive coordinator and obviously screwing up your relationship with the NFL sack leader. This defense is significantly worse than a year ago. You thought you were too good for the defensive coordinator that helped lead you to a Super Bowl appearance years ago, and you brought in Al Golden. Bad move. You pissed off Trey Hendrickson, NFL sack leader. Bad move. Your only players of impact that you added to the defense, all rookies. That's a solid plan if you complemented it with adding veteran impact players, but you didn't. Bad move. So I put a lot of stock into the Bengals in preseason. I buy their offense looking as good as it does with Joe Burrow out there, and I buy all the stock in the world and this defense being as bad as what they've looked the first two games, especially against the run. Washington had their back. That was their second string offense that was running all over that Bengals defense last night. That's you can't have that. That's not me hating. In fact, if you're a Bengals fan and you're mad that I'm saying this and you're not saying it, that's a you problem, my dude. Like, I don't know what you want me to say. Like, brother, come on. Figure it out. So, I mean, it is what it is at this point. I think I was watching First Take and everyone, and Dan Orlovsky, I mean, Joe Burrow, for being as unprotected of a quarterback as he is on the field, to me is the most protected quarterback when it comes to the media. So, during that Super Bowl media scrum, I kept saying Joe Burrow's making a mistake by being as outspoken as he is about what he needs. Because Joe Burrow was not going radio show to radio show, TV show to TV show saying, I need a defense. He wasn't demanding that the Bengals front office. He wasn't putting the pressure on the front office to go improve defensively. He was putting the pressure on the front office to go make sure that he still has Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. And I kept saying that's a mistake because Josh Allen didn't need Stephon Diggs to win an MVP. All right, Patrick Mahomes didn't need Tyreek Hill to go to 3 straight Super Bowls, winning 2 or 3 MVPs and all that other fun stuff, right? But you need T. Higgins, you need Jamar Chase. I wasn't advocating for the Bengals not to bring those 2 back, but the fact that you spent all of your available media time pushing that the Bengals need all of these offensive weapons when the whole reason you missed the playoffs was because of the lack of defensive weapons, I thought that was a very short-sighted approach by Joe Burrow. I thought it was wrong. I thought it was a mistake. And now guys like Dan Orlovsky want to try to get us boobs over here to buy into, oh man, the Bengals are just, this is so wrong what they're doing to Joe Burrow. What's wrong? This is what he wanted. I mean, like, what are the Bengals doing wrong to Joe Burrow? They give him every offensive weapon he wants. They spend every available dime that they have on the offensive side of the ball. Well, they haven't given him an offensive line. It wasn't for lack of trying. They have a $40 million offensive line. They invested all their money into the O-line. They put all their money into the quarterback. They put all their money into his pass catchers, into his weapons. Just when you thought they couldn't get any more depth on the offense, they go and they add Noah Fant, a really, really good tight end free agent that, of course, Seattle moved on from. What the Bengals aren't doing wrong by Joe Burrow. They're giving him literally everything he wants. I disagree 1 billion% with Dan Orlovsky. The Bengals are not doing Joe Burrow wrong. They're giving him exactly what he wanted. He cried during all of media press row during the Super Bowl. I need a receiver. I need Jamar Chase. I need T. Higgins. Well, yeah, it's not that crazy, but this is what you get. When you get what you wanted, when you use that time to ask for that instead of what you really need, which is a well-rounded roster. I'm not going to defend the Bengals front office here, but I will say it did not seem like they wanted to go the route of T. Higgins, and it does seem like they would have gone in a different direction if they didn't have to give all their money to 2 wide receivers. But hey, this was almost the front office kind of stepping back and saying, all right, Joe, this is what you wanted. Don't get mad at me. Don't get mad at Duke Tobin. Don't get mad at Katie Blackburn. Don't get mad at these dudes and gals. All right, you got exactly what you wanted. So if you truly believe that the Bengals are wasting Joe Burrow, you are delusional. Everything he's wanted, he got. Everything he's gone to the media for to say, I need this, I need that, they need to do this, the Bengals have done. $40+ million in the offensive line. $70+ million to 2 wide receivers. They gave him $55 million. What else do you need? You get Mike Gesicki last year. You get Noah Fant this year. You give him multiple tight ends. You give him multiple wide receivers. $40 million offensive line. Now, the offensive line's not good. I get that. But don't sit there and act like the front office is failing Joe Burrow. They're literally investing every dollar that they have into Joe Burrow. Every dollar they have goes into a wide receiver, into a running back, into a tight end, multiple tight ends, multiple wide receivers, offensive line. You will not convince me that the Bengals are wasting Joe Burrow. They're not. They're literally doing everything they can to keep him happy. And then when they miss the playoffs because they do exactly what he says, you guys are going to sit there and say, I can't believe the Bengals are failing Joe Burrow. They're not. If the Bengals did what they should have done, all right, like if Joe Burrow, all right, really knew what was best for the Bengals and him, he would have been screaming from the mountaintop for every big-time free agent on the defensive side of the ball. It should have been about defense, defense, defense. If Joe Burrow's not throwing a temper tantrum at next year, because they're going to miss the playoffs again. Your Cincinnati Bengals are not a Super Bowl contender. They are fringe playoff contender with that defense, okay? So at the end of the day, if Joe Burrow, when they miss the playoffs this upcoming season, I better see Joe Burrow throwing a temper tantrum at Super Bowl Media Row like he did last year. This time I need to see him screaming and pleading and begging and crying for a defense. The front office will give him what he wants. He just has to ask for it. But when you look at the fact that they are top 5 in spending in offense, bottom 5 spending in defense, Yet every time Joe Burrow's opening his mouth to the media, it's all about, I need this, I need that, I want this, I need this, I want that, and it's all offense. Don't tell me that the Bengals aren't giving him what he wants. They're giving him exactly what he asked for. Don't get mad at the front office. Get mad at Joe Burrow. He has the power to demand stuff, and he demanded the wrong thing. We'll be right back. The Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio.
Fairmont Firebirds, the Alter Knights. Week 1 of the high school football season is here, and we have all the action for you on 1410 ESPN Radio and 101.5 Hank FM. The Battle of Kettering, this Thursday night, with coverage starting at 6:30. the Justin Kinner Show, right here on ESPN Dayton, 1410 Wing AM.
All right, and we welcome you back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. The Dayton Weight Loss Secret Program has successfully helped thousands of people lose 20 to 30 pounds in a month or two. Schedule your free consultation in person or virtually by calling 937-999-1480 or online at DaytonWeightLossSecret.com. Right now, if you and a friend or you and your significant other both come in and enroll in a weight loss program, you will both get 15% off. Hurry in today. This is an August-only special. I started the Dayton Weight Loss Secret Program back on July 1st. I was sitting at 210. I just got down to 185 last week. I mean, I've been amazed. Like, I've tried so many other different type of weight loss programs out there, and they either don't work or they're too difficult, and I'm just not disciplined enough. The discipline has been there because this isn't one of those weight loss programs that you starve, right? Like, there's no, you're not injecting yourself with anything. You don't have to poke yourself with any needles. All right. You don't have those prepackaged meals that always look better on the box than when you open them and warm them up, right? Like, no endless workouts. No. So again, the Dayton Weight Loss Secret Program has successfully helped thousands of people lose 20 to 30 pounds in the first month or two. And the fact that, I'm already sitting here 25 pounds down a month and a half into this is huge. I haven't weighed this a little since college, and that was 10 years ago. So that was a minute ago. So again, give them a call today. It's a free consultation. It's not going to hurt to pick up the phone and call and at least get information and see if it's something you'd be interested in. But I don't regret it one little bit. I was nervous at first to start it, but when you start to see the quick results, I mean quick. Within the first week, it's starting to fall off. In a month and a half in, to be down 25 pounds already is pretty wild. So again, call Dayton Weight Loss Secret today, 937-999-1480, or of course online for your free consultation. Schedule that at DaytonWeightLossSecret.com. All right, it's no secret. Yesterday on the show, I was a little fired up about Elly De La Cruz and the Cincinnati Reds. Look, I will say, I'm not one of those, always trying to find the positive in something, but I think the one thing that the Reds have been really good at this season, and I think they're a lot better at stuff than what we like to give them credit for, but I think the one thing that the Cincinnati Reds are really, really good at, and I think this speaks volumes about Terry Francona as the manager, this team does not quit. How many times and you guys need to be honest, I've quit on this team multiple times throughout the year. When they lost that game 2 against the Brewers, I didn't give a rip what happened in game 3. I'd given up. This team has had some gut-wrenching losses. They have had some gut-wrenching finishes. You go and you'll beat the Yankees, you'll sweep the Rays, you'll do all these great things, but then you'll lose to the Pirates, you lose to the Marlins, lose to the White Sox. You lose to bad teams. They've lost to the Nationals, are one of the worst teams in baseball. They've lost 2 series to them this year. So there's been so many things that have happened that this team could have easily just given up and quit. Very similar to what we've seen them do in recent years. But to their credit, to Terry Francona's credit, and I think that this is for a roster that's not super talented, I would like to think that this is going to be the least talented roster that Terry Francona manages in Cincinnati moving forward. I would like to think that. Okay. And I actually think that the roster got better at the deadline. We just didn't want to give credit to Nick Kroll in the front office because we wanted a big, sexy name, and I think we ended up. Would you rather have had one Eugenio Suarez, or when you look at Ke'Bryan Hayes, all right, and you look at as far as the sum of their parts are concerned, when you look at the fact that the Cincinnati Reds made multiple moves at the deadline, I think when you combine the impact of Miguel Andujar, when you look at the addition of obviously Ke'Bryan Hayes, and you go and you get Lytle to add to the rotation, so that gives you the flexibility to move Nick Martinez to the bullpen, and Chase Burns, and we'll get to him in a moment. I think that we are afraid to give this team any credit whatsoever because we're waiting for them to pull the chair out from underneath us, and then we fall on our ass and get, ticked off, right? I think that's what it really comes down to. The bottom line is the number one thing I've been the most impressed with this Reds team all season is the fact that they have had so many reasons to quit. In years past, we've seen them have big series wins. David Bell was very good at getting them excited to go play the Yankees or the good teams. And we've seen some of that pattern this season. But what we've seen from Terry Francona is Terry Francona has never allowed this team to snowball out of control. Every time they've had a bump in the road, you lose to the Nationals, right? Every time, you lose to you split with the Pirates, you lose to the Pirates. Every time that they've had a chance to fold and for the season to start to snowball and get away from them, they've responded. You may hate it still, that's fine. This roster was not very deep coming into the season. It just wasn't. And I think that this is what you expect. Look, they're 6 games above 500. It's not, the way people talk about this team is as if this team is just one of the worst teams in baseball, and that's just not factually accurate. The Cincinnati Reds are 6 games above 500 as we currently sit here right now, and most importantly, they are 1 game out of a playoff spot. I think that stuff matters. I think, focusing on some of the positive instead of always being negative all the time, I think that stuff matters, But like I said, there's been so many opportunities where this team could have folded. All right. You get it wasn't just that you lost games 1 and 2 against the Brewers. It's the way in which you did it. You had an 8-1 lead in game 1 and you lose 10-8. All right. You had a chance to take game 2 and rebound after that tough game 1 loss. And then you have your superstar face of the franchise, once in a generation talent, not be able to convert on a play at first. Like that's you expect more out of your franchise player. Those are just gut-wrenching losses, losing in extras. And then to go to extras the next day in game 3, after losing the way they did in games 1 and 2, and to relinquish the lead and to go into extras, morale-wise, this team could have just quit. And instead, they found a way, come from behind in extras to win that game, and then to go to last night and pummel the Angels the way they did to get a 4-1 game 1 win. They're 6 games above 500. It's the most games above 500 that they've been all season. Brady Singer gets his 11th win on the year. He's 11-9 on the season, by the way. Barlow gets his first save of the season. And now guess what? You dropped 2 or 3 against the Brewers in the series that not only should you have won, you should have swept them. They're the hottest team in baseball. Now you have a chance to go take game 2 tonight against the Angels to potentially win your 3rd straight, and I kind of like their chances. They have Hunter Green on the mound. They have Hunter Green on the mound tonight, and then Nick Martinez to close it out tomorrow, and then they're going to head to Arizona, where they're going to have Lytle, Abbott, and Singer. Put it this way, the Reds are a game out of first place. The Mets continue to plummet. The Reds finding ways to win and not just let the season snowball and get away from them. They're 66-60. Most games above 500 they've been all year. And guys, they're doing all of this while playing the toughest schedule in baseball. We knew that the Reds had the toughest schedule in baseball coming out of the All-Star break. And while you guys focus on the negative, I'm going to focus on the fact that they went to New York, a team that's currently in the playoffs. If it started today, took 2 or 3 in New York. They go and sweep the Tampa Bay Rays, another playoff team. Right? You take 2 or 3 from the Chicago Cubs, who are a playoff team. You take 2 or 3 from the Philadelphia Phillies, a division-leading playoff team. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. Should have swept that should have won that series against the Brewers, so close to sweeping it. And then you punched the Angels in the mouth last night. This team's playing good baseball. You don't want to give them credit. You're ticked off. But man, oh man, I think that this team's a lot better than what you guys want to give them credit for. And I'm not walking back my criticisms from yesterday. Elly De La Cruz needs to be a better face of the franchise type of player. He needs to be more consistent. When the lights get brightest and the moments get biggest, he needs to be the best. And he has not been. And that's okay. It's not okay. It's okay to acknowledge that. It doesn't make me a bad fan. It doesn't make you a bad fan if you agree with it or acknowledge it as well. I think it's common sense to expect your superstar player to be at his best when the lights get the brightest and when the moments get the biggest. I think that is beyond fair. When the game's on the line for the Cincinnati Bengals, you expect Joe Burrow to convert and make big plays when your team needs it the most. You expect that. All right. And when he doesn't deliver, and he usually does, when he doesn't deliver, it's okay to say, man, Joe, you really needed to make some plays there. Man, Joe, that was not a good turnover. That's going to cost us. It's okay to say that. You're not a bad Bengals fan. You're not a hater. It's okay to say that because that's the right way to think. Who are you to tell me how to think? On a lot of stuff, you can think how you want. This is common sense. You should expect your superstar player to play like a superstar. And by the way, the difference between all-star players and superstars are the ones that make the biggest plays when the lights are the brightest and when the moments are the biggest. Derek Jeter was never the best shortstop in baseball, but my gosh, he's probably one of the most famous shortstops in all of baseball because why? He delivered when it mattered most. Jeter wasn't even the best shortstop during his era playing the game. There were much better shortstops than Derek Jeter, but Derek Jeter is always going to win that debate with people because you remember way more Derek Jeter moments at short than you do anybody else. Because he played the best and made the biggest plays when the lights were the brightest and the moments were the biggest. And in New York, on top of that, there's no pressure to play in Cincinnati, and Ellie De La Cruz can't convert on a lot of these throws when the Reds need him the most. Sure, he can get better, and he's going to get better. But it doesn't mean that in the meantime, I still expect him to get better as in from yesterday to today. It is what it is. But the Reds, that's a big win last night. It was a huge win last night. It does sound like the Reds are close to getting Nick Lodolo back. I saw a graphic today. Imagine the Reds, okay, if you're going to go into the postseason, if the Reds could find a way to sneak away, to sneak into the postseason and take that final wild card spot. All right, if you're the Chicago Cubs in a 3-game series against the Reds, keep in mind, a 3-game series against the Reds, to have to face Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott, and Nick Lodolo in games 1 through 3, man, like I'm telling you, the Cubs, they don't want to face those 3 pitchers in a 3-game series in October. If you're the Padres, who the Reds have beaten already, taken 2 or 3 from them in a 3-game series. If you're the Padres, who are the number 2 team in the wild card right now, they don't want to face Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott, Nick Lodolo, 1, 2, 3. The Mets don't. They don't want that, right? Like, the Diamondbacks, if they find a way to get back into this, the Giants, whoever. And that's just the wild card teams. Forget that. Let's take a look at the division leaders right now. You look at the Dodgers. The Dodgers are 71-54. They have a 2-game cushion. By the way, the Dodgers just a week ago were in the wild card race because the Padres were the hottest team at the time. The Padres have lost 4 straight, right? Like they've lost all momentum. But the Dodgers, that's a hell of a lineup. It's a strong lineup. We're going to see the Reds play the Dodgers next week. Right? We're going to see the Reds play the Dodgers in Los Angeles next week. I'm telling you right now, the Dodgers are the better team. But to sit there and act as if, the Dodgers wouldn't be nervous or concerned or worried about having to go up against those 3 starting pitchers for the Reds. The Reds have the most important piece in the puzzle when it comes to October baseball, and that's the pitching. Like, that's the toughest part to get. There's a lot of teams that can go buy a lineup and buy a couple key pieces to contribute in the lineup. But what it's very difficult to do is to go buy starting pitching. Well, the Reds haven't had to do that. The Reds have developed it on their own. And I think that's pretty impressive. But the Reds are going to play at the Dodgers next week. I mean, look, Hunter Green is scheduled right now based on how this all shakes out. Hunter Green will be on the mound tonight. And then his next start will be game 1 against the Dodgers on Monday, August 25th. Hunter Green going up against the Dodgers in the postseason. The Dodgers will be favored as they should. But man, I feel solid about the Reds' chances if Hunter Green's on the mound. And with this amazing, Andrew Abbott's been the Reds' best player this season. He's been phenomenal. If he's on the mound for game 2, if you get a win with Hunter Green on the mound in game 1, and now you have a chance to take the series in game 2 with Andrew Abbott, I love that. I love that. And these are the things that matter early on in the postseason. 3-game series, 5-game series, 7-game series. The Reds have the pitching to go at some of the strongest teams in baseball, and that's all that matters. That's all that matters. Shaw, they wouldn't be afraid of that offense. That's super, Shaw. Thank you for that wonderful take of yours. No kidding. No kidding. But when you have the pitching to neutralize the Dodgers offense, that lineup, it just takes 1-2 good innings, and the Reds have a shot. They have the most important piece. I mean, my goodness, Shaw, that was such an annoying-ass take of yours. Oh, I won the lottery, but I got to pay taxes. The Reds aren't a perfect team. The Dodgers, as much money as they spend on their roster, they're not a perfect team. Their pitching hasn't been lights out. The Reds have the best pitching of all the teams in the wild card picture right now. There's deficiencies with every team. That's why the Padres were the hottest team in baseball a week and a half ago, and they've lost 4 straight, and now they're 2 games behind looking up at the Dodgers. Right? Like that's how this works. The Brewers, hottest team in baseball, they're getting pummeled by the Cubs right now. That's how this works. Everyone has deficiencies. The Brewers, probably their biggest deficiency is they probably peaked a little bit too early. But man, oh man, the negativity with the Reds is annoying. I called out the Reds yesterday because they needed it. But the way they've rebounded, put that Brewers series behind them, they found a way to at least avoid getting swept and then to do what they did last night. Now you have Hunter Green on the mound tonight, have a chance to take a quick series. Boo. Good to go. David Shaw says, boo-hoo, cry, don't get mad because this offense sucks. Do you not remember 2020? Once again, what argument are you trying to win here? I'm not trying to tell you that this offense is great, but I also know that statistically it is one of the better offenses in baseball. It takes one or two good innings with this pitching, and this team has a chance to win every night. There's a reason this team has not been swept all season. They have not been swept all season. It's because of this pitching and the opportune offense and the from that lineup. Boo-hoo. No one's crying, Shaw. You're crying. You're always the negative one. And the Reds starting pitching, it's probably one of the best rotations in all of baseball. Yeah, but that offense stinks. Yeah. And the Dodgers have all this money. They spend all this money. Great lineup. Yeah, but all the injuries. Just go play the game. Reds going to roll it out there. They're going to win tonight. They're going to take this Angels series. Then they're going to take this Diamondback series, and it's going to get us all to scoot back in to get excited about that Dodgers series. But the Reds are playing meaningful games in August for once. So while you sit there and sulk and cry and worry about the Reds in 2020, I'm going to focus about the team that's 6 games above 500, a game out of a playoff spot, and playing pretty good baseball right now in 2025 here in August. So you worry about 2020. I'm going to enjoy 2025 here. You do you. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. We'll be right back. All right, and we welcome you back. Hour number 2, the Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. Can you believe it? The high school football season's officially here, and we kick it all off right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Coming up this Thursday night, the Battle of Kettering, Alter, Fairmont, 7 o'clock to kick off right here, 1410 ESPN Radio, and on our sister station, 101.5 Hank FM. Myself and College Football Hall of Famer Keith Byers will be on the call. This is your number 11. Very fortunate to have someone of his expertise and experience calling games for us right here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Battle of Kettering, Thursday night, right here. All right, the Reds will be back in action later on tonight. We're going to get to see Hunter Green pitch for the second time since coming off the IL, where he missed 12 starts. And one of the key things, and, you know, it was not a shot at Hunter Green. It was more talking and speaking to the strength of this Reds team. The fact that the Reds have been without, I mean, when you think about last year, how bad this team was last year, and you think about how good Hunter Green was, and he finished 8th in Cy Young voting last year. If you would have told me coming into the year that he was going to miss 12 plus starts, he's missed a total of 14, that he was going to miss 14 plus starts on the season, I would say that this team doesn't have a chance. And I'm not going to lie, it was great seeing Hunter Green back last week, but his absence hasn't really been felt. And that's not a shot at Hunter Green. That is, at the end of the day, us talking about just how deep this rotation, how deep this pitching staff is. Does it have flaws? Does it have deficiencies? Yes. Is it the best rotation in baseball, best pitching staff in baseball? No. You know, we heard Francona talk about the fact that he's overused quite a few guys because, you know, there's been some outings where the starters haven't been able to go deep into games. But overall, when Hunter Green's been out there, he's been lights out. Nick Lodolo's been fantastic when he's also been out there. We're getting him back soon, which is pretty exciting. And then Andrew Abbott's just been phenomenal. Brody Singer's been a hell of an addition. The Reds definitely won that trade moving on from Jonathan India, which a lot of people, including me, was a little concerned about. His absence hasn't been felt either. I was never, because someone sent a note during the break that, oh, you were just saying how the Reds didn't need Hunter Green a few weeks ago, and now all of a sudden you're, saying that the Reds have a chance to win in the postseason because of Hunter Green. I could see why you took it that way. But a few weeks ago when I said, man, Hunter Green, his absence, it really hasn't been felt, because it hasn't. Because the Reds weren't losing games because they didn't have Hunter Green, right? Like they've been very inconsistent in a lot of facets of the game. But the bottom line is this rotation, when healthy, it sets them up perfectly if they're able to close the deal and get to the postseason. The most important thing, you have to have pitching to win in October. If you don't have pitching, you will not win in October. And is it going to guarantee you to win in October? No. But if you don't have it, I guarantee you won't win. It gives you the best opportunity to do so. Shaw was, every time you bring up something positive with this team, would counter with the negative. And that's what 90% of Reds fans seem to do. Right? Like, it's the wildest thing. This Reds team is far from perfect. It's not very deep. It has a lot of flaws and a lot of deficiencies, yet they're a game out of a playoff spot, and they're 6 games above 500. They're the only team in baseball that has yet to be swept. One of the best rotations in baseball. Very, very good pitching staff as a whole when you look at the whole sum of their parts from the rotation to the bullpen. And they got better at the trade deadline when they go and get Lytle, and when this team gets fully healthy, and you can take advantage of moving Nick Martinez to a full-time bullpen role. Very curious to see what they do from the Chase Burns perspective. I don't like that they're going to move him to the bullpen, but if they do move him to the bullpen, I'm not going to be mad about a guy that, well, when he starts, he struck out 10-plus batters 4 straight games before, obviously, this injury. So this team's only going to get stronger and better as far as the pitching is concerned. And then the offense. This team is sometimes tough to watch offensively, but this team is not bad offensively. This team is not good offensively. This team is probably the most average offense that you can possibly have in baseball. They've scored the 11th most runs in baseball. All right. They have the 16th best team average in baseball. They have the 15th most hits in baseball. They have drawn the 11th most walks in baseball. All right. So that, they're obviously not a good power hitting team. They're not as aggressive on the base paths as a year ago. We talked about why has Ellie not been so aggressive on the base paths yesterday. Obviously, that injury he's been battling all year, that explains it, no doubt. They have the 17th best on-base percentage in baseball. Look, They're anywhere between 14th, 15th, 16th, and 17th in every major offensive statistical category out there. But the way we talk about this team is as if they're the Pirates, is as if they're the Colorado Rockies, as if they're the Washington Nationals, who have a run differential of minus 151. And by the way, they have a pretty bad pitching staff, or they have a pretty bad pitching staff as well. So they give up a lot of runs and they don't score hardly any runs. Like this, like, what are we doing? The Reds need to be better offensively. No doubt about it. Talked about how Ellie needs to be better in clutch moments. No doubt about it. But to sit here and talk about this team as if they are just horrendous offensively, they need to get better. And they need to attack that in the offseason. They need to add more power to this lineup. But man, oh man, I like the Andujar addition at the deadline. Brian Hayes was the best defensive third baseman in baseball, and now all of a sudden, he has a little pop. All right, he's now, he has more home runs in his first couple weeks as a Red than he did the last 2 years as a Pittsburgh Pirate. I mean, the guy's been unbelievable since the Reds have acquired him. So this team's not great offensively. But if they're an average offensive team with one of the best rotations in baseball, if you head into the playoffs in a wild card series with an average offense in a rotation that you're going to throw out Hunter Green, Andrew Abbott, and Nick Lodolo 3 consecutive nights, I like the Reds' chances. They're not better than the Dodgers. They're not better than the Padres, but they are equipped and built to be able to compete and beat them in October. And that's all you can do. And that's all you can ask for at this point. They're not going to be able to improve this roster mightily at this point. It puts a lot of pressure on them in the offseason. We could talk about how you don't have faith in them there. That's fine. We'll focus on that when we get there. But as far as who this team is now, how they're built now, what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are, they're 6 games above 500, a game out of a playoff spot. And they've been playing the second toughest. I said toughest earlier, but since the All-Star break, they had the second toughest schedule in baseball from the All-Star break on. From this point on, they do have the toughest schedule remaining in baseball, if that makes sense. They've had every reason to fold and to cave, and they just keep finding a way. The spirit of a team matters more than anything else. And that's the one thing that this team has been able to possess and show is the fact that, man, didn't have it against the Pirates, right? Didn't have it against the Pirates, but they go on and they win series that they have no business winning or shouldn't win based on how they perform against them. I feel good about this Reds team right now. I do. I like their chances tonight to take this Angels series. I like their chances against the Diamondbacks. And I love the fact that Hunter Green next Monday night is going to be on the mound for the Reds in Game 1 against the Dodgers to help set the tone in Los Angeles. Let's go to the phone. Shaw, you're on live.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Another day in paradise.
Yeah. I agree that they have good pitching. I agree with that. But you can make fun of me for sitting there bringing up 2020 all you want, but you know what I was doing when I brought up 2020. You can like they had the NL Cy Young Award winner. They had Sonny Gray pitching number 2, and what'd they do? The same thing this team's going to do. And then you can say,
how do you know that? How do you know it's the same thing? How do you know it's the same thing that this team's going to do? There's not even a player on this roster that was on this roster in 2020. Well, how do you know?
When has this offense showed you that they're going to be able to do anything against quality pitching?
They're 6 games above 500, a game out of a playoff spot, and they're average statistically in every major offensive statistical category.
I didn't say against the Pirates. I didn't say against the Nationals. I didn't say against every bottom feeder that they face. I'm talking about quality pitching. What have they done against quality pitching?
I don't have the numbers against quality pitching right here in front of me, but you're not 6 games above 5. You think that they're only playing all 66 wins are only against bad teams and bad pitching?
No, obviously they played some, but they beat up
playing
on a
the
lot
toughest
of bad
schedule in
too.
baseball in the back half, and they've done pretty dang well.
We haven't concluded the back half yet. We're still playing in the middle of the back half.
I'm doing a show today. All right, I'm doing a show on August 19th, 2025. I'm not going to
understand how the show
tune in
works.
tomorrow to find out how the Reds are going to perform 2 months from now. I don't know that. I'm talking about based on what we've seen to this point. I didn't crown them World Series champions. I didn't crown them NL
games
Central
above 500, and you're acting like they're 66 games above 500.
and you're acting like they're the damn Pirates.
No, I'm a realist.
Why are you yelling?
I'm not going to. Why are you yelling?
I'm not yelling. I'm asking you to bring
my
the tone down.
My speaker in my ear says otherwise.
Well, turn it down.
Anyhow. Well, then you pipe down. We can sit here and do this rodeo all day long, dude.
Not my first rodeo.
Not mine either, especially with you. And you've been on one all day, acting like you didn't know what I was talking about when I was talking about they fired the defensive coordinator and they hired the wrong guy, acting like you didn't know what I was talking about. You've been acting like that all day long today. You wanted to fight. Anyhow, moving on.
You're cranky today. I mean, I get you're wrong.
Yes, you are. And you brought me into it. And I fell right into it. Anyhow, like you're acting like this team. I look at this team.
Hold on. How am I acting like anything? I got here and I just said that they they're not elite offensively. I said that they're average at best in pretty much every major statistical category out there. I highlighted their strengths. I talked about their bad losses against teams like the Pirates, White Sox, and others. This has been the most down the middle opinion I've had on this team in quite some time. And you're saying I'm crowning them World Series champions?
Over what I said about the playoffs? Yes, I am. Because I brought
You've already eliminated them. You've already eliminated, like you've put them in the playoffs and got eliminated.
I don't know what's going to happen. All I said was
you already said. You said it's going to happen exactly what happened in 2020. That's what you said.
I said it could. I didn't say it was going to.
Then why can't you? Could. I mean, they could average 12 runs a game. You don't know.
They're not going to average 12 runs a game.
I thought you said you didn't know what was going to happen. Now you know what's going to happen.
I don't need to know what's going to happen. The offense has showed it all year long.
Why are you yelling?
Ellie doesn't hit home runs anymore. So who's gonna be the power bop in this offense to take them to 12 runs a game in the playoffs?
I don't care how they score the runs. Just score the runs. Just score the runs. I don't care how they do it.
Kind of like 2020, just score a run. And
what is your obsession with 2020? Are you going to put a mask on? I mean, what's your obsession with 2020?
No, because it's a correlation to what you're talking about this year. You're talking about how this pitching staff is great and it's unhittable and it's all these things that you said that they are. Mm-hmm. 2020 was the exact same way. Sonny Gray, the NL Cy Young Award winner. They went out there. They faced the Braves offense, shut them down completely, and what they wind up doing in 2 games? They lost both of them, 1-0.
So the Reds are going to lose in the playoffs this year because they lost in 2020.
No, they're going to lose this year because the roster's made up the same way as it was in 2020. Nothing's changed. They have great pitching this year. They don't have any offense. And it's not my fault you want to be a contrarian today.
I'm not being contrarian. I'm using – they are literally middle of the pack in every major offensive statistical category out there. I'm not even saying they're good offensively. But you're talking about them as if they have a run differential of minus 353 when that's not the case.
No, I'm talking about them realistically. Realistically. They're 6 games above 500. Basically middle of the road. They're 15th and 14th and 12th in offense. Mm-hmm. Basically middle of the road. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean you're guaranteed a playoff win because you have great pitching. Most playoff teams have great pitching. Most playoff teams are not going to be afraid of this offense. That is literally all I said. That's all I said.
Yeah, negative right away.
Okay, realist.
I mean, if you won, like if you go about a scratch off and you won like $100,000, are you going to be happy about the money you won? Or are you going to complain? Oh God, you got to pay taxes.
I'm happy I won $100,000. That's realism.
I mean, but you got to pay taxes on it. Oh, this is horrible.
No, realistically, I just won $100,000. I'd be happy.
Realistically,
it's about being realistic.
This team is in the playoff picture because of their strengths. Okay. Realistically, and
this team is in the playoff picture because the New York Mets have faltered for the last 2.5 months.
See, there it is again. Oh, I got to pay taxes.
That was negative. That was negative. I'll agree with you on that. But come on. Let's be realistic here. You were great being realistic yesterday, but now all of a sudden because
I was giving an opinion on a player, on Ellie De La Cruz. I haven't shifted and changed from that.
Ellie De La Cruz is the Reds' offense. Ellie De La Cruz is the Reds.
I mean, Ellie De La Cruz is not the Reds as a whole. Like, he's just not. That's not how
when
baseball
he goes,
works.
The Reds go. Do they not?
I mean, he didn't go over the weekend, and they were going like that. What do you mean?
They lost 2 of 3. What'd they do?
No, they put a lot of runs up on the board.
They lost 2 of 3.
They put a lot of runs up on the board. I thought their offense was horrible.
Oh, in that 3-game series you were just talking about, they would have been going home. They lost 2 of 3. It doesn't matter what
but I'm
you
not
look
sitting
like
here
in the
saying they're
game. It
going to
matters
win a
what
World
happens.
Series. You said that they're going to lose because they won't score runs. I talked about the fact that they scored runs. They still lost the series, but they scored runs.
So what you're saying is in October, if they're lucky enough to make the playoffs and they lose in a 3-game series, you're going to come on here, well, we lost, but we scored a lot of runs.
No. If you would have paid attention, instead of being all negative, boo-hoo, gotta pay taxes, you would have heard me say that this team just has to be good. They just have to get hot for 1-2 innings. That's it. Just a couple runs up, 1-2 innings, and the pitching staff will put them in good position to win this game. I acknowledge their deficiencies. I acknowledge their deficiencies. I acknowledge their deficiencies. What are you happy about? What did you get up on the wrong side of the bed?
I could ask you the same thing.
I'm not even in a bad mood. I was sitting here talking about how good I felt about the Cincinnati Reds. Their never give up attitude. They're the only team not to get swept. I talked about, yes, the offense isn't that great, but I'm really happy about the pitching. The fact that there's been moments where they could have caved and snowballed and the season get away from them. That's the most freaking positive and jolly I've been all damn week. What the hell are you talking about?
Rewind 20 minutes ago when you're jumping my case because I had the gall, the unmitigated gall to say this team's offense is horrible.
No, I acknowledge that this team's offense isn't great, but you're bringing up 2020 as if this is the same roster.
Because it's a correlation.
I got your correlation.
And it's a very good correlation.
It's not a good
a very good one. How's it not a good one?
Oh, my goodness.
How's it not a good one? The pitching, you had the NL Cy Young Award winner on our pitching staff.
Mm-hmm.
You had Sonny Gray, and I can't remember who the third pitcher was even going to be. But you literally went the NL Cy Young Award winner.
You don't even know who the hell's on the roster, and you're over here talking about correlation. How do you have a correlation? You don't even know who's on the roster.
NL Cy Young Award winner Sonny Gray, and you lost 2 to basically both games if you combine them.
I'm hanging up. I know why he's cranky, folks. I know why he's cranky. He's cranky because he's surrounded by a lot of Buckeye fans who get to celebrate a clean national championship. He's cranky because late last week he found out that, well, one of the biggest highlights of his fandom of that cheating team up north, it was all tainted because the NCAA came out and basically exposed them for being the cheaters that they are. I figured it out halfway through the conversation. Shaw's just in a bad mood because the only highlight that he has as a sports fan is a cheating national championship with a big old asterisk next to it. And I have no clue what the hell the 2020 Cincinnati Reds have to do with this season. I really, really don't. I hope you guys get it. But, man, it feels good to be a fan of a team that won a clean national championship. Man, I can't imagine being a fan of that team up north knowing that we had to cheat to beat Ohio. Oh, we beat Ohio State. You had to cheat to do it. You had to cheat to win your national championship. Pretty pathetic. Pretty embarrassing. OH. 937-518-1410. The number to call and jump in on the conversation. If you have something positive to say, don't be all negative like Shaw. My goodness. The sky is falling. You know, the Reds are a game out of a playoff spot, 6 games above 500. This is the first time in a decade that we're talking about the Reds playing meaningful games in the month of August. And, well, remember that time they got ousted to the playoffs in 2020? Yeah, the season that I don't even count. And not just because they got ousted. I wasn't going to count anything even if the Reds would have won that playoff series. You know, it was a truncated 60-game season with no fans. It was, you're going to have to do better than that using a COVID shrunken season to win an argument. My goodness. We welcome you back. The Reds back in action tonight again. Looking forward to tonight's matchup again, just to see if the Reds can continue it. As far as that goes, 14 games back in the division, 66-60. The division, they don't have a chance. I don't give a rip about. I mean, I give a rip about the division. Don't get me wrong. I want them to win the division. But all this talk about being a realist, I'm a realist. The best chance the Reds have to make the postseason is the wild card. And they have 2 winnable series coming up. With you look at the pitching that the Reds have, and you look at the, again, capability of this offense. You know, you should beat the Angels. You should beat the Diamondbacks. I love the test of the Dodgers coming up when you have Hunter Green and, you know, Nick Martinez and Lytle, and maybe you have Nick Lodolo back by then. I'm fascinated by that wrinkle too. But then you got the Cardinals coming up. You got the Blue Jays. And then a huge series coming up at the beginning of September. Friday, September 5th. The Reds will play and welcome in the New York Mets, who's in the playoff picture ahead of them. Like, if the Reds make the playoffs, they would have earned it. The Reds, if they make the postseason, they would have definitely earned it. Yes, they play the toughest schedule in the back half, but every team, like, to make the postseason, like the playoffs, the Reds are in the playoffs right now. You have to win these series, especially when you're going up against teams. Like, they have a good cushion on the Diamondbacks, but you don't want the Diamondbacks to shrink that cushion. You need to win that series. The Dodgers were just in the wild card spot last week. I mean, no one's going to give the Reds a chance against the Dodgers to win that series. But Mike, can you imagine if they do pull that off? The amount of attention that they're going to get for that, they're going to have an opportunity. You have a chance to beat the Cardinals and the Blue Jays, but you're going to face the Mets. You get to play the Padres again, right? And then, of course, after you play the A's on September 14th, it's a NL Central sprint to the finish line. You have 3 at St. Louis, 4 against the Cubs in Cincinnati, 3 against the Pirates in Cincinnati. But here's the problem. The Reds, who just had a shot to win the series against the Brewers, a shot to sweep the Brewers, by the way, at home, if they really are pursuing a playoff spot, and it's coming down to the final stretch of the season, man, oh man, the Reds close out the regular season with 3 straight at Milwaukee. I mean, my goodness. Like, this is going to be a fun sprint to the finish line. I'm excited about Ohio State football. Can't wait for them to play Texas coming up in a few weeks. I can't wait to see how the Browns season's going to, get underway. By the way, I already know how it's going to get underway. I don't know how many games they're going to win this year, but I do know they'll be 1-0 after week 1. That's not a hot take. I think that it's a matchup nightmare for your Cincinnati Bengals. I'm excited for that. I'm excited for all things football. Love that we have high school football kicking off this week. But the fact that I am literally dialed in to the Cincinnati Reds and what they're doing, locked in on everything that they're doing, guys, this is pretty cool. I mean, it's about to be September, and the Reds are playing meaningful games. That's pretty damn cool. They got to keep it going tonight, though. They got to keep it going tonight as far as that's concerned. As far as the Mets go, we talked about the Reds' tough schedule that they have coming up. But, like, the Mets, they have the rivalry with the Braves. They still have to, they're going to go to Atlanta coming up this weekend. They got to play the Phillies still. They got to go to Detroit. Right? They have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They still have 7 games with the Phillies remaining. They have to go to Detroit for 3. They got to play the Padres still. They got to go to Chicago for 3. Like, I get that the Reds have the toughest schedule in baseball remaining, but like at the same time, excuse me, at the same time, I would love to see the ranking of how tough these schedules are, because I'm looking at the Mets schedule and I'm like, my goodness, you got to go to Atlanta for 3. You got 7 with the Phillies remaining. You got to go to Detroit. You have to play the Padres. You have to go to Chicago for 3. Like, I'm sorry, but to sit here and talk about how the Reds have the toughest schedule in baseball remaining, that schedule doesn't sound like, oh, they have an advantage over the Reds. The Reds, I mean, have the Angels right now, Diamondbacks, Cardinals, Blue Jays, Athletics, Cardinals again, Pirates. I'm sorry, like, I get it. The Reds have the toughest schedule in baseball remaining. I disagree. I look at that Mets schedule. I see what they have coming up. I look at what the Reds have coming up. And maybe it's deemed tough because the Reds have struggled against teams that they should win, that they should beat, right? Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Fascinating, though, either way. Scott Campbell. Scott, hope you're doing well. Scott Campbell on the Justin Kinner Show Facebook page says every game the rest of the way should be viewed by the Reds as playoff games, because at this point that they are. It's not like if you lose them, you're eliminated, but I do think not enough is being made about the fact that the Reds are the only team in baseball not to be swept. Like, do you guys realize, like, that's a big deal? If they would have got swept by the Brewers this past weekend, and look, I've admitted I've been negative. I've been a crybaby like Shaw before. I quit on the team after they lost to the Brewers in Game 2. But the fact that they showed life and avoided getting swept, I'm not hanging, moral victory banners by any means, but it's like it gets your attention. Like, they ended that series on a high note. And by the way, if they would have won Game 2 and lost Game 3, then they lost 2 or 3 against the Brewers. They would have won Game 2 and lost Game 3. It's a different vibe still. Like, the fact that they closed that series out with the win, that matters. To set up the momentum that they needed to take Game 1 last night, and then you have Hunter Green on the mound tonight. Like, the situational stuff that they've been able to capitalize on throughout this season has been pretty remarkable, and I'll take it. Because this team is not the best in baseball. They have a lot of flaws and deficiencies. And the fact that they have lost games because of those deficiencies, yes, but they haven't lost the season. And I think that matters. They haven't quit. They haven't given up. And I think that speaks volumes about the leadership of Terry Francona, because I think that that's one thing. When you look back at this season and the fact that they have not been swept, opportunities where series, not just losing series, but getting swept in series and just letting it snowball. The season's never gotten away from them. And it's because of that feature right there, as far as that's concerned. All right. I want to step away for a few to reset. I want to come back. I want to talk about Ohio State football. I do want to talk about Urban Meyer was asked about, did the NCAA get it right with the punishment that was handed down to those cheating scumbags, the Michigan Wolverines? Did the NCAA get it right? Urban Meyer's response might surprise you. He hates Michigan more than anybody. But he explained his response, and I'll give it to you now, not the explanation, but he said the NCAA got it right. The punishment handed down to those cheating scumbags, the Michigan Wolverines, Urban Meyer, who owned Michigan, who did it the right way, by the way. He said the NCAA got it right. His explanation might surprise you, or will it? We'll discuss when we come back. More of the Justin Kinner Show next.
The Fairmont. The Alternites. Week 1 of the high school football season is here, and we have all the action for you on 1410 ESPN Radio and 101.5 Hank FM. The Battle of Kettering. This Thursday night with coverage starting at 6:30.
.439 here in the Miami Valley. We welcome you guys back again. The Justin Kinder Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. Yesterday, we didn't really have time to get to it, but Ohio State did name Julian Sayin as the starting quarterback for Ohio State. No surprise there. I don't know really what took so long for Ohio State to decide to name him the starter. I think we all kind of knew it. It reminded me a lot of the Kyle McCord battle a few years ago. It's like everyone knew Kyle McCord was going to be named the starter, but it's like he just was never named the starter until games even into the season. And I couldn't tell if it was because, was it the backup was playing up to Kyle McCord's level or Kyle McCord playing down to Devin Brown's level, whatever it was. And I just didn't feel good about it. I think that Ryan Day has earned a big-time benefit of the doubt when it comes to how he handles this team. I think last year, I'm excited to see the new Ryan Day moving forward. He's coaching stress-free, right? Like I'm not saying there's no pressure, but, I do think that I do believe a lot of the issues that happened with Jim Knowles were because I don't think Ryan Day had even the respect of that locker room. I think there's a reason that things kind of unraveled the way that they did at times. I also respect like crazy the job that Ryan Day did to get that locker room to buy back in, but I do believe that there was a put up or shut up moment where, oh, you're going to criticize me, Ryan Day, who has never won any big game ever with his own roster ever, right? I think that when it came time for Ryan Day to scold Jim Knowles for not doing his job, I think it was tough for Ryan Day to do because Ryan Day there were so many parts about his job performance that was questionable that it made you not respect him when he was getting on you about how you're doing yours. I don't think that Jim Knowles problem happens if Ryan Day wins a championship sooner, but it is what it is. And the reason I bring that up is because I do believe that Ryan Day is a different person, is a different coach, and all for the better. My only critique is how he handled this. And if he did handle this to try to make everyone feel like you're going to have a chance if you come here to compete for a job, stop. These kids aren't stupid, and we as fans aren't stupid. We knew Julian Sain was going to be the guy. And the only thing that you've done is the longer that Ryan Day went without naming a starter is it just kept allowing doubt to creep into our minds. Think about it like this. If Ryan Day would have come out a month and a half ago, and said Julian Sain's our guy, I think we feel way more confident about Julian Sain and the Buckeyes than what we do right now. And maybe that was done purposely to limit pressure and expectations on Julian Sain. But you know what I mean? How do you guys feel about Julian Sain being named the quarterback outside of, okay, well, yeah, we kind of figured that, but I do feel like the excitement level is not through the roof because I feel like the longer that quarterback battle went on, a lot of us, including me, started doing the whole, well, he's clearly not the guy because if you have the guy or not. Kyle McCord proved that. Ryan Day took as long as he did, not because he wanted the competition to remain competitive and open throughout camp. It's because he just truly didn't know. Kyle McCord, he looked the part at times and then he did it others, and it was not an easy watch. Is this one of those where, I got to name a starter. We got to get whoever. We got to get one of these two guys. You're not opening up with who the hell is that state. You're opening up with Texas. You have to get him out there in as many first team reps as possible. I do question whether or not he made the right decision waiting this long to name him the starter because I already have doubts now. And I think a lot of you guys do as well. Maybe not. Maybe some of you are ecstatic. I don't know. But I feel like it was his job to lose, but I don't feel like he definitively went out there and captured it. For people out there, well, you have to say that the quarterback competition is there because you don't want people to shy away from coming to your program. Every single human being knew that Texas's quarterback this year was going to be Arch Manning, and I don't think any quarterback is shying away from going to Texas because, oh man, I might not get a fair shake there. I feel like I'm not. I hope Julian Sain's the guy, but I'm a little skeptical whether or not he is the guy because if he truly was the guy, there wouldn't have been a competition. You know what I mean? This isn't hard. I don't want to be worked by, a lot of this is coach speak, or is it? Julian, he had to name somebody because you have to give one of these guys as many first team reps as possible 2 weeks out from the Texas game. So you have to do that. But I think that, if Julian Sain really was the guy, I think he would have been named a long time ago. Lincoln Kienholz, they owed it to him. They didn't owe him anything. Lincoln Kienholz has been here a long time. He's had more than a minute to prove that he's the guy. And the fact that he has been here as long as he has and Ryan Day still doesn't know if he's the guy, that tells me he's not the guy. And the fact that I know that he's not the guy and it still took you this long to name Julian Sain the guy, what was he lacking during this whole process that kept you from being able to name him the guy over the guy that you know is not the guy? But man, oh man, he has an opportunity of a lifetime. The opportunity of a lifetime to go out there and ball out against Texas's defense. And that's what's crazy is this is supposed to be a rebound year. Can you imagine? I was reading today that Ohio State's going to pretty much bring back outside of Tate, and I think like one or two. The entire offense will be back next season. Now, you can't always say that confidently because the portal, but I mean, really, who's trying to leave Ohio State if you have a good footing as far as your role? But this could be a start of something special at Ohio State as far as championships, not just competing for them, but championships, especially because Ohio State does it the right way. How about that, Michigan? How about that? Speaking of Michigan, Urban Meyer took over a program that was facing a lot of sanctions and that, obviously had a postseason ban, and it didn't matter what you did that season. And we saw a team go undefeated and not get a chance to compete for a national championship. Urban Meyer knows what that's like, right? And a lot of us felt like the NCAA was a bunch of cowards and not being willing to give the postseason ban to Michigan because they deserved it. They literally cheated. Urban Meyer in Ohio State had to face a postseason ban because of tattoos. Well, these cowards had to orchestrate an entire cheating scheme to give themselves a competitive advantage on game days. And they just get a slap on the wrist and basically are told, yeah, well, all the guys that did it, they're not here anymore. It doesn't matter. The program as a whole benefited from it to the point where they went on to win a national championship. So, did they win a national championship because of it? I mean, they have a chance to compete for a national championship. I think that there's a lot of wins that came because of those tactics and practices. And I think the TCU game showed when you didn't have what was in front of you, how, if you didn't have the cheat sheet, you didn't pass the exam. So, and my big thing about that always was that it was more embarrassing and pathetic that Michigan had to go that route because they shouldn't have had to. Harbaugh is supposed to be a legendary, coach. You had J.J. McCarthy, and you had Corum, and you had so many of these amazing, talented pieces. And instead of talking about that, it's all being overshadowed by this cheating scandal. This is why Michigan fans, you guys should be as mad as everybody else. I see so many people on social media trying to argue that, they didn't, yes, it's unfortunate what they did, but it's about the players and McCarthy and this, that, and the other. And I'm like, I get that, but that's why those guys should be mad. J.J. McCarthy should hate Connor Stallions, and he doesn't because they were all in on it together. Right? That was always my big red flag from the very beginning. If Connor Stallions truly was acting rogue and put this team in position to not win a national championship by being reckless, Jim Harbaugh should hate him. Everybody should hate him. And how many times was this guy parading on the sidelines of games, being welcomed back with open arms by everybody, when if you truly were acting rogue, you were risking everything. If you truly were acting rogue, nobody would have accepted you back. Everyone accepted you back because they knew the coward piece of crap that you were to go and pull off something like that. That's why I don't feel bad that all those players get overshadowed by this because they played a role in it. They knew it was happening. They benefited from it. And they didn't care if they truly care, so they deserve to not have all the attention being given their way and all the credit being given their way. But if there's anybody that hates Michigan more than me and most of you listening, it's that of Urban Meyer, who owned Michigan. In fact, if anything, I think Urban Meyer is to blame for the cheating scandal because he owned Michigan and dominated Michigan for so long that Harbaugh's only plan, his only direction that he could have gone in was the coward route of having to cheat to figure some of this stuff out. Because keep in mind, it wasn't just that, Harbaugh was having a hard time winning all rivalry games. It wasn't just that. It's not that he was winless in all rivalry games, but he couldn't win bowl games. He wasn't making the playoff, wasn't winning Big Ten championships. He wasn't doing anything. And then all of a sudden this elaborate cheating scandal starts and now all the success comes and now you want to have the respect of everybody. I mean, who has it better than we do is what they like to say. Nobody. Because nobody else could have cheated and did the stuff that they did and got away with it the way that they did. So nobody has it better than them. Urban Meyer dominated them so much to the point to where they had to come up with this elaborate cheating scandal, and to their credit, it worked. But you would think with all the hatred that Urban has for Michigan that he would be pretty upset too about the NCAA's decision to basically come down light on them. Now, we could talk about the severity of the punishment or not, but let's be clear. They didn't want to punish Michigan with a bowl ban and punish kids on this roster that had nothing to do with what happened before, especially with this coaching staff and whatever. And by the way, the head coach of Michigan, he was also a coward because he also played a role, but that's besides the point. But Urban Meyer, who I thought would have been very boisterous about the lack of a punishment, if you will, from the NCAA, it was actually quite the opposite. It was actually quite the opposite. Check this out. Urban Meyer said on the Triple Option podcast that in December of 2011, I had to stand in front of a group of seniors. He said that he had to stand in front of a group of seniors and tell them that they were not allowed to play in a bowl or championship game in their final year of college football for something that they had nothing to do with. One of the most difficult things I had ever done. That same group went 12-0 and were unable to play for the national championship of college football. The recent NCAA ruling to not punish players that were involved is correct. However, this ruling also proves that the NCAA as an enforcement arm no longer exists. I actually, with all of the back and forths on social media and all the drama that has followed with this, I actually thought this was probably one of my favorite responses because, you know, Urban's lived that. He had to experience it. He wasn't a part of the scandal. He replaced the coaching staff that was a part of the scandal. And he absorbed, you know, a roster and had new players on the roster that didn't have anything to do with that. However, he had to tell them that they weren't bowl eligible and that they weren't able to participate in any kind of postseason activity. They were 12-0. Should have competed for a national championship. Urban finished with 1 national title in Columbus. Could have had 2. But man, oh man, I thought that was a cool response. If you're just tuning in and joining us, we're live on the Justin Kinder Show Facebook page. Urban Meyer, who you would think would be all about ripping the NCAA for letting them off easy, he agreed with the NCAA to not punish today's players for the actions of the previous coaching staff. Urban Meyer says, in December of 2011, I had to stand in front of a group of seniors and tell them that they were not allowed to play in a bowl or championship game in their final year of college football for something they had nothing to do with. One of the most difficult things I ever had done. That same group went 12-0 and were unable to play for the national championship of college football. The recent NCAA ruling to not punish players that weren't involved is correct. I thought that was a cool response by Urbs. I disagree with Urban Meyer. You know, especially because there's a good chunk of these players that were on that roster. There's a good chunk of the coaching staff that was a part of that scandalous run. So I disagree. Literally, Urban Meyer and his team could not compete for a national championship because of tattoos. Ohio State wasn't good because of tattoos. Oh, well, the perks, that's what got those players to, yes, because man, I'm on the fence. Do I go to Alabama or Ohio State? Oh, no, if you go to Ohio State, you get free tattoos. Oh, yeah, Ohio State got the advantage because of free tattoos. You're a moron. Michigan literally cheated. They came up with an elaborate cheating scheme to give themselves a competitive advantage. And you're going to compare that to tattoos. Get bent. Like, whatever. What are we doing here? Not the same thing. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show here on 1410 ESPN Radio. Just a reminder, high school football, we kick all of that off coming up later on this week. Thursday night, the Battle of Kettering, Alter, Fairmont, 7 o'clock to kickoff. College Football Hall of Famer Keith Byers and myself will be on the call right here on 1410 Wing AM and, of course, on our sister station, 101.5 Hank FM. For the complete high school football broadcasting schedule, go ahead and visit wingam.com. Kind of crazy. High school football kicks off this week, and the next week, I mean, all of our college and NFL coverage really starts to pick up. Jason Fitz is going to be a regular on the show moving forward starting next week. Paul Keels will be a weekly visitor on the show, legendary voice of the Buckeyes, starting next week as well. Going to be a lot of fun. We're going to have Bobby Carpenter on next week ahead of Ohio State's showdown with Texas. So pretty excited about some of the stuff coming up. But all right, it's the Justin Kinner Show, Dayton's ESPN Radio, 1410 Wing AM.